Have you ever looked in the mirror, not at your reflection, but through it, and wondered, is this really all I'm meant to be? Not out of disappointment, but out of a quiet, knowing that there is something more inside you, something waiting, something unfinished. Life has a way of placing us in seasons where everything feels uncertain, where the routines feel stale, where the person we are no longer matches the person we want to become. And in those moments, it's easy to feel stuck, overwhelmed, or even defeated. But what if those moments aren't signs of failure at all? What if they are invitations, signals that it's time to rebuild, redesign, and rise into a stronger version of yourself? You see, every one of us carries a story, but the most powerful part of that story is not the chapter behind us. It's the chapter still unwritten. And the truth is, you don't need permission to begin again. You don't need perfect timing, perfect resources, or perfect confidence. All you need is the courage to say, this is not where my story ends. This is where it transforms. Because rebuilding yourself is not about starting over. It's about starting us better. Personal responsibility is the moment you recognize that every choice you make shapes the direction of your life, whether you are conscious of it or not. It is the shift from pointing at circumstances to looking inward and saying, I have a role in this and I have the power to change it. Many people move through life believing their outcomes are controlled by external forces. Luck, upbringing, economy, timing, other people, yet the most influential force is the one inside them. Personal responsibility does not deny that challenges, limitations, or unfair moments exist. It acknowledges they are real, but it refuses to let them become permanent excuses. When you accept responsibility, you stop waiting for something outside of you to fix your situation and start asking what you can do with what you have. The reason responsibility becomes the foundation for rebuilding is because nothing else works without it. You can't adopt new habits, create a new mindset, or rebuild your identity if you're still blaming the old you, or worse, blaming everyone else. Responsibility clears the fog. It reveals that your future depends less on what has happened to you and more on how you respond. When you take ownership, you begin to see options where you once saw obstacles. Instead of saying, this is just the way I am, you say, this is who I've chosen to be so far, and I can choose differently. This shift is the starting point of every personal transformation that has ever happened. Taking responsibility doesn't mean taking blame for everything. Blame is heavy and emotional. Responsibility is empowering and practical. Blame says, it's my fault. Responsibility says, it's my life. Blame keeps you stuck in what already happened. Responsibility directs your attention toward what you can do next. It allows you to move forward without being weighed down by shame or regret. Once you understand this difference, you stop resisting responsibility and start embracing it as the key to every meaningful change you want to make. Many people avoid responsibility because it feels uncomfortable. It means admitting that some of your habits don't serve you. It means acknowledging that some of your decisions contributed to your situation. It means realizing that your life didn't just happen to you. You participated in it. But that discomfort is actually the doorway to freedom. The moment you admit your role in shaping your life, you also gain the ability to reshape it. You can't control every event, but you can control your response, your attitude, your discipline, and your direction. This realization is liberating because it gives you back the steering wheel. When you take responsibility, you also raise your standards. You stop accepting the habits that weaken you. You stop allowing negative influences to direct your behavior. You stop tolerating what keeps you small. Responsibility pushes you to ask better questions. What can I learn from this? What can I change today? What do I need to stop doing? What can I start doing right now to improve my situation? These questions lead to growth because responsibility naturally pulls you toward improvement. It becomes uncomfortable to stay the same once you know you have the power to change. Responsibility also strengthens your identity. When you rely on circumstances to improve your life, you become fragile. Whenever conditions shift, you crumble. But when you rely on your own effort, decisions, and mindset, you develop inner stability. You no longer depend on luck. You depend on discipline. You no longer rely on motivation. You rely on habits. You no longer wait for the perfect moment. You create your own momentum. This inner strength is what rebuilding is made of. It gives you resilience during difficulties and clarity during confusion. Ultimately, personal responsibility is not a burden. It is the beginning of self-respect. It is the willingness to say, my life is valuable enough for me to take charge of it. It shifts your identity from a passenger to a creator. It opens the path to rebuilding because it gives you full access to the tools, the decisions, and the mindset required to build a stronger version of yourself. Small daily disciplines are often underestimated because they don't produce immediate fireworks. They don't come with applause, dramatic breakthroughs, or sudden transformation. They are quiet, simple, almost too ordinary to take seriously. Yet they hold the power to reshape a person's entire life because consistency turns tiny actions into enormous results over time. The human mind is conditioned to look for big changes, sudden wins, and overnight success, but real growth rarely happens that way. It happens in the invisible, repetitive actions that compound quietly in the background until one day the difference becomes undeniable. A small discipline is anything that moves you slightly forward, reading a few pages, practicing a skill for 10 minutes, choosing a healthier meal, waking up a little earlier, saving a small amount of money, or avoiding one bad habit. These actions do not feel significant in the moment. In fact, they are often easy to skip because the consequences of skipping them aren't immediate. If you don't read tonight, nothing dramatic happens. If you skip your practice session, your life won't collapse. If you choose the comfortable option instead of the disciplined one, you may not notice any difference at all. This is what makes small disciplines dangerous when ignored. They are easy to do, but they are just as easy not to do. Over time, the difference between doing them and skipping them grows wider. Imagine two people starting in the same place. One decides to read 10 pages a day. The other reads nothing. After a week, the difference is small. After a month, one has read a book, the other has done nothing. After a year, one has absorbed 12 books of knowledge, the other remains unchanged. After 5 years, the gap in perspective, wisdom, skills, and opportunities becomes enormous. And all of it started with 10 pages a day. The world sees the person who has grown and calls them talented, lucky, or gifted, but most of their success came from tiny, consistent actions repeated long enough to become powerful. Small disciplines also change a person's identity. When you repeat a small positive habit every day, you start to see yourself differently. You begin to trust yourself. You prove through action that you can follow through. Confidence doesn't grow from big achievements alone. It grows from repeated evidence that you can keep your word to yourself. Every time you show up, even for a small task, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who takes responsibility for your growth. This internal shift is far more important than the task itself because identity influences every future decision. The beauty of small disciplines is that they build momentum. At first, the effort feels larger than the reward. But as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the discipline becomes automatic. What once required motivation eventually requires no thought at all. The act becomes part of who you are. And once a habit is ingrained, it becomes a source of strength instead of effort. This momentum is what carries people forward during difficult times. A disciplined person doesn't rely on motivation. They rely on the system they've built through countless small actions. On the other side, neglecting small disciplines leads to a slow decline that often goes unnoticed until the consequences are too large to ignore. Skipping one workout leads to skipping two. Avoiding a difficult conversation leads to tension that grows into a problem. Leaving small tasks unfinished leads to clutter that eventually overwhelms. Poor choices compound just as powerfully as good ones. Life responds to patterns, not isolated moments. Tiny negative habits can quietly deteriorate health, relationships, confidence, or finances in the same way small positive habits can rebuild them. Another reason small disciplines are so effective is that they remove the overwhelm associated with major goals. Many people fail not because the goal is impossible, but because the goal feels too big. Breaking it down into small, daily actions turns the impossible into the achievable. A large mountain becomes a series of small steps. Each step gives a sense of progress, and progress fuels motivation. People often think they need massive action to change their lives, but in reality, they need consistent action. Intensity creates movement, but consistency creates transformation. Small disciplines also set a standard for the rest of your life. When you insist on doing the little things right, you naturally become more attentive, more organized, more intentional. The way you do the small things influences the way you do the big things. Excellence is rarely a single act. It is a series of small acts performed consistently and deliberately. Over time, these acts create a foundation strong enough to support major achievements. Most importantly, small daily disciplines remind you that change is always within reach. You don't need perfect conditions, huge resources, or a dramatic life shift. You only need the willingness to do a little more today than you did yesterday. Small steps compound, and eventually the person you become is unrecognizable compared to the person you started as. Your environment is one of the most powerful forces influencing who you become, often in ways you don't consciously notice. It shapes your beliefs, your habits, your mindset, and even the opportunities you recognize or ignore. People like to think they make choices independently, but much of human behavior is a reflection of the surroundings they consistently interact with. If your environment encourages growth, you naturally rise. If it encourages stagnation, you unconsciously settle. Understanding this influence is essential for rebuilding yourself because no level of personal effort can survive long-term if it is constantly battling against the conditions around you. The people you surround yourself with form the most influential part of your environment. Human beings are social creatures. They absorb attitudes, emotions, and perspectives from those around them. When you spend time with people who complain, doubt, blame, or resist change, their mindset becomes normal to you. Negativity spreads quietly, not through force but through repetition. Eventually, you find yourself thinking and acting in ways you once disagreed with, simply because you've been conditioned to see the world through their lens. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who aim higher, take responsibility, and pursue growth, you begin to adopt their language and patterns. Their discipline inspires you to be disciplined. Their ambition pushes you to raise your standards. Their confidence teaches you what is possible. This doesn't happen through one conversation or one moment of inspiration, but through the steady influence of proximity. Your habits are another part of your environment, and they are often shaped by convenience and accessibility. If unhealthy food is always within reach, the easy option becomes the normal option. If distractions dominate your space, procrastination becomes inevitable. If your surroundings are disorganized or chaotic, your mind mirrors that pattern. But when you design your environment to support the person you want to become, discipline becomes much easier. Simple changes like having books easily accessible, keeping your workspace clean, or limiting the presence of digital distractions can dramatically improve consistency. People often underestimate how much small environmental adjustments can influence behavior, but the truth is that environment often dictates action more than motivation does. Information is another powerful environmental influence. What you read, watch, listen to, and observe affects your thoughts more than you might admit. Constant exposure to drama, negativity, or trivial content slowly shapes the way you think. It trains your mind to focus on what is unimportant or discouraging. In contrast, when you consistently feed your mind positive, educational, uplifting, or vision-driven content, your thoughts begin to align with growth. The information you allow into your life becomes the raw material for your beliefs and decisions. Guarding your mind is not about avoiding the world. It is about choosing what deserves to shape your future. Your physical space also influences your mental and emotional state. A cluttered room can create a cluttered mind. Poor lighting or an unorganized environment can drain energy without you realizing it. Spaces filled with reminders of past failures or old versions of yourself can keep you anchored to identities you're trying to move beyond. On the other hand, a clean, intentional space can make you feel more focused, energized, and motivated. Surrounding yourself with reminders of your goals, symbols of progress, or a space designed for productivity can make rebuilding yourself far more natural. Your environment also includes the expectations placed upon you. Some environments encourage growth through challenge, structure, and high standards. Others discourage growth by making improvement seem unnecessary or even inconvenient. If everyone around you is comfortable staying the same, change feels abnormal. If everyone around you is striving to become better, staying the same feels uncomfortable. Human beings adjust to the standards of the group they are part of, whether consciously or unconsciously. This is why choosing the right environment is not just helpful, it is necessary. Evaluating your environment means being honest about what supports your future and what supports your old patterns. It requires courage to distance yourself from influences that hold you back, even if they feel familiar or comfortable. Growth often asks you to step into spaces that challenge you, inspire you, or require you to stretch beyond your current abilities. When you choose an environment that aligns with the person you want to become, rebuilding yourself becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural progression. Challenges are often viewed as interruptions, inconveniences, or punishments, but in reality, they are the raw materials from which stronger, wiser, and more resilient versions of ourselves are built. No one grows in the absence of pressure. Comfort may feel pleasant, but it rarely produces transformation. Growth is almost always triggered by difficulty, moments that force you to rethink, adapt, and rise above what you once believed you could handle. When life presents challenges, it isn't closing doors, it is handing you tools. The question is whether you will pick them up or turn away from them. Every setback contains lessons that you cannot learn any other way. Success teaches confidence, but challenge teaches character. When everything goes smoothly, it's easy to assume you've mastered life. But when something disrupts your plans, it reveals what you still need to strengthen. A broken routine teaches you flexibility. A disappointment teaches you emotional resilience. A loss teaches you gratitude and empathy. An unexpected obstacle teaches you creativity. These lessons don't come from books or motivational speeches. They come from the lived experience of struggle, and they are often the lessons that shape your identity the most. Challenges also expose your true potential. Most people underestimate their strength because they've never been pushed far enough to discover it. Difficulty forces you to tap into abilities you didn't know you had. It stretches your endurance, sharpens your focus, and tests your discipline. You learn what you are capable of not by avoiding hardship, but by going through it. Without challenges, you might settle for mediocrity, believing it is your limit. With challenges, you realize that your limits were only self-imposed boundaries waiting to be broken. There is also a powerful relationship between pain and clarity. When you face a challenge, you are forced to examine what matters most. You gain perspective. You stop wasting time on trivial things. You learn to appreciate what you took for granted. Difficulty strips away the noise and reveals the truth, what you need, what you value, and what you must change. Many turning points in life are born from moments of pain because pain interrupts patterns that no longer serve you. It demands reflection, and reflection is the birthplace of transformation. Challenges push you to adapt, and adaptation is the essence of rebuilding. When a storm hits, you don't rebuild your life exactly as it was. You rebuild it stronger, smarter, and with more awareness. You repair weak areas. You reinforce foundations. You make improvements you would not have considered if everything had stayed perfect. Challenges force this process in a way comfort never could. They reveal where you've been neglecting yourself, where you've been avoiding responsibility, and where you've been holding on to outdated beliefs. In this way, challenges are not setbacks. They are upgrades waiting to be unlocked. Another overlooked truth is that challenges build resilience, and resilience is the strength that lasts long after motivation fades. People who have faced difficulty and grown from it develop a quiet, unshakable confidence. They don't fear future obstacles because they've already proven they can survive past ones. They trust their ability to rebuild, adapt, and rise. This inner trust becomes one of the most powerful tools a person can possess. It can't be given. It must be earned through experience. Challenges also deepen your appreciation for success. When you earn something after struggle, its value increases. You respect the journey more. You become more grateful. You stop expecting easy rewards and start understanding the relationship between effort and fulfillment. This gratitude creates humility, and humility keeps you grounded as you grow. Without challenges, achievements might feel shallow. With challenges, even small victories feel meaningful. Relationships often strengthen through shared challenges as well. Hard moments can reveal who truly supports you and who disappears when things get tough. They teach you which connections are genuine and which were built on convenience. They help you build a circle of people who uplift, challenge, and stand by you, which becomes a vital part of any personal reconstruction. The right people become anchors during storms and mirrors reflecting your potential when you cannot see it yourself. Most importantly, challenges are reminders that you are still evolving. They show you that life is not static, and neither are you. Every difficulty carries within it the potential for reinvention. When you embrace challenges as tools instead of threats, you step into a powerful mindset where every obstacle becomes an opportunity to rise a little higher than before. Vision is the force that gives direction to your actions, meaning to your struggles, and purpose to your progress. Without vision, even hard work loses its power because you don't know what you are working toward. You might be busy, but you aren't moving. You might be active, but you aren't advancing. Vision is the internal blueprint that shapes the structure of your future. Just as a builder cannot create a house without a clear design, a person cannot rebuild their life without a clear picture of who they want to become and what they want to achieve. Vision transforms scattered energy into focused effort, and focused effort creates results that feel intentional rather than accidental. A clear vision gives your life momentum because it fuels desire. When you know exactly what you want, your actions feel purposeful. You wake up with direction instead of drifting through routines. The human mind performs best when it has a target. It needs something to aim at. Without a target, it wanders. With a target, it becomes sharper, more determined, and more resilient. Vision gives your mind something to lock onto, something to build around, something to chase. Even small steps gain significance when they contribute to something meaningful. When you act without vision, everything feels random. When you act with vision, everything feels connected. Vision also protects you from distractions. Every day, you are surrounded by choices, temptations, and opportunities that may or may not serve your growth. Without vision, it is easy to say yes to everything and end up exhausted and directionless. With vision, you become selective. You start filtering your decisions through a simple question. Does this align with the future I'm building? That single question can save you years of wasted effort. Clarity cuts through confusion. It helps you avoid habits, people, and environments that don't support your evolution. A person with vision no longer chases everything. They focus only on what moves them forward. A strong vision makes discipline easier. Discipline becomes unbearable when it feels like sacrifice without purpose. But when you understand why you are doing something, discipline feels like an investment. Losing sleep to pursue a goal feels different than losing sleep for no reason. Saving money for a dream feels different than saving money without intention. Rejecting distractions feels empowering when you know what you are protecting. A person driven by vision can endure short-term discomfort because they can see the long-term reward. Vision replaces excuses with motivation and hesitation with commitment. Vision also influences the way you respond to challenges. When difficulties arise, people without vision feel lost because they don't know what the struggle is leading to. But people with vision recognize challenges as stepping stones. They understand that every journey towards something meaningful includes obstacles. Instead of feeling defeated, they ask, how does this help me grow into the person who can achieve my vision? This perspective turns setbacks into part of the process. Vision acts like an anchor, keeping you steady when life tries to push you off course. Another powerful aspect of vision is the way it shapes identity. When you envision your future self clearly, how you think, how you behave, how you carry yourself, you begin to align your actions with that version of you. You start making choices based not on who you are now, but on who you want to become. This shift changes everything. Your future identity begins influencing your present behavior. Instead of living according to old habits, you start living according to your upcoming potential. Vision pulls you into your future self. Vision also attracts opportunities. When you are clear about what you want, you naturally recognize chances that align with it. People around you sense your direction and are more willing to support you. Clarity makes you magnetic. It communicates seriousness and intention, which draws resources, mentors, and possibilities into your path. What once looked like coincidence becomes alignment, and what once looked like luck becomes preparation meeting opportunity. Most importantly, vision gives your life meaning. People crave purpose, not just achievement. They want to feel that their effort matters. Vision provides that feeling. It turns your daily actions into steps towards something significant. It gives you a story to live by, a direction to grow in, and a reason to rebuild yourself with determination, courage, and hope. Your future is negotiable because it is not fixed, predetermined, or locked into the patterns of your past. Many people live as though their future is simply an extension of what has already happened, as if today must bow to yesterday's mistakes or limitations. But the truth is that the future responds more to decisions than to history. It bends to choices, habits, and mindset. The moment you decide to rewrite your direction, the path ahead of you begins to shift. You are not sentenced to repeat the same outcomes. You have the ability to redesign your trajectory through conscious effort and intention. The future is flexible, and your actions are the tools that shape it. It is easy to believe that circumstances dictate everything, but circumstances are only the starting point. What truly determines your future is how you interpret those circumstances and what you choose to do next. Two people can experience the same setback and create completely different futures from it. One lets it define them, the other lets it refine them. One sees an ending, the other sees an invitation to change course. This difference comes from the belief that your future can be influenced, redirected, or rebuilt. When you accept this truth, you begin to use every experience, good or bad, as material for transformation instead of evidence of limitation. Your past choices may have shaped your present, but they do not have the authority to dictate your future. At any moment, you can introduce new habits, new disciplines, and new ways of thinking that override old patterns. A person who has been inconsistent can become disciplined. A person who has avoided responsibility can become accountable. A person who once doubted themselves can develop confidence. The brain and the personality are remarkably adaptable. They respond to repeated actions. Change does not require permission from your past. It requires commitment in the present. When you choose a new direction consistently, the future must adjust accordingly. The negotiability of your future becomes especially clear when you look at how small decisions compound over time. Your future is not shaped by one dramatic moment, but by repeated, consistent choices. Every time you choose growth over comfort, discipline over impulse, effort over avoidance, you shift the path ahead. These choices may seem insignificant, but they accumulate, gradually redirecting your life like small adjustments to a compass. A 1-degree change today can lead you to a completely different destination years later. This is why the future is so malleable. It is built on tiny, continuous actions that anyone can begin at any time. Believing your future is negotiable also gives you the courage to let go of identities that no longer serve you. Many people remain stuck because they cling to labels or stories they've carried for years. They tell themselves they are not capable, not talented, not disciplined, not lucky enough. But these identities are not permanent truths. They are simply interpretations of past behavior. When you decide to rebuild yourself, you are not betraying who you were. You are choosing who you want to become. Identity is fluid, and your future self does not need the approval of your former self to exist. The moment you stop defending your limitations, you make room for a new version of you to emerge. Another important aspect of a negotiable future is that it invites you to be intentional rather than reactive. People who feel their future is fixed simply react to life. They wait, hope, and wish for things to improve. But people who understand that the future can be shaped act with purpose. They choose their influences, protect their energy, set standards, and make deliberate moves. They don't rely on luck or timing, they rely on steady progress. This shift in mindset transforms life from something that happens to you into something you participate in creating. Intention turns possibility into reality. Even when life brings unexpected challenges, the negotiability of the future remains. You may not choose every circumstance, but you always choose the meaning you assign to it and the action you take afterward. This is where true power lies. You can rise from failure, rebuild after loss, and reinvent yourself at any age. Your past does not get the final say. Your next decision does. Every moment presents a new negotiation, an opportunity to adjust your course, to build again, and to claim a future that aligns with your highest potential. And so, as we stand here at the edge of the next chapter, remember this: rebuilding yourself is not a single moment of inspiration. It's a continuous decision to rise a little higher each day. It's the willingness to take responsibility for your life, to honor the quiet power of small daily disciplines, to shape an environment that lifts you rather than limits you. It's the courage to turn challenges into raw materials, to build your vision with clarity and conviction, and to embrace the incredible truth that your future is always negotiable. You are not defined by your past. You are not confined by your circumstances. You are designed for growth, renewal, and reinvention. Every choice you make from this moment forward becomes a brick in the structure of the person you are becoming. So step forward boldly, rise with intention, rebuild with strength, and remember, your story is far from over. In fact, the most powerful pages are still ahead of you. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for choosing to grow. I wish you clarity for your path, courage for your journey, and strength for every step you take. Good luck. And may the next version of you be the strongest one yet.